Are you ready to learn? Because my super experienced guests are ready to share some really valuable information. Make sure and listen all the way to the end to get help and support. So let's start with the best audio experience.
Hello guys, welcome to our show. Today we discuss about mobile SEO, how you need to optimize your content, how to get results, how to get high ranking positions, and a lot more. I'm so excited to discuss this topic with Cindy Krum. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. And Cindy, before we start, just tell more about yourself, about experience, background, remind why you pay so much attention to mobile SEO.
Yeah, so I'm the CEO of a company called Mobile Moxie, based in Denver, Colorado, and we've focused on mobile SEO and emerging technology since 2008. And so this makes it really fun for me because I get to really pay attention to the changes as they're happening when Google is launching things. And so that includes mobile web, app, and then now as we're getting into kind of the next level of mobile, it's becoming much more multimedia with Google Mum. And it stands for Multitask Unified Model. And it's kind of Google's next big thing, or next big thing, including or with AI probably added in there too somehow.
Nice. Yeah, love it. I remember when Google tried to convince webmasters that you need to optimize websites with mobile, and many replied, "No way, I don't need it because my audience is in this desktop." But today it's a must-have, and I usually tell my designers, you need to create design for mobile version than for desktop, because they create for desktop, forget about mobile, and then when they squeeze, it doesn't look good. So yeah, it's better to think about both. You don't need to ignore any version. Okay, Cindy, can you tell why your company pays attention to mobile? We have desktop traffic, we have many other type. Why you decided to pay attention to mobile?
Well, when I first decided to pay attention to mobile, no one else was really paying attention to it. That was before I even started my company. That was in 2005. And I was doing searches on my phone and noticing that the search results were bad. The websites didn't work, and I couldn't understand, why they were so different from desktop. So I started reading mobile development blogs to see what the mobile developers were doing that was making things so bad. And then I started writing about it, saying, hey, the same stuff that we do on desktop applies to mobile, and this is what you should be doing, because no one else was talking about it, and it seemed important. So it's gone a long way from there. We have apps that launched in app stores. So there's app search and image search and all this new stuff that's exciting, but it's been a very fun ride. But it just seemed necessary, like no one was focusing on it.
Yeah, nice. Can you tell about user experience? How to learn UX in mobile version? Because I see when companies check out desktop version, analyze it, but in mobile version, UX can be low, not good. So any tips how to do it right?
Yeah, mobile usability is one of the hardest things to master. And what you mentioned really does help a lot, which is designing for mobile first and then expanding it to desktop, rather than designing for desktop and trying to cram it into mobile. So thinking about what is absolutely necessary for the person to complete their task, and doing that on mobile, and then adding things as you get to bigger screens where you can have the less necessary things, but making sure that everything works and is fast and is really intuitive, and easy to figure out on the mobile phone. And that can be tough because there are so many different sizes of mobile phones. You've got different orientations, but the mobile browsers have gotten much better at rendering content in a good way. So the main thing that people forget to do is test all of their navigation, and make sure that it all works, that it can open and close, that people can convert all the way quickly, that they can convert, from an email and it goes directly where it's going. All of those things can get messed up. And so just testing those things can really help.
I'm interested about some elements that webmasters can hide on mobile version, because Google doesn't recommend to do it, but sometimes it's hard to use the same content, because if we have long content, many models, probably mobile users don't need it. But sometimes we don't know, when you don't optimize for mobile version, you can, the system, CRM system can do it instead of you. Can you tell how to analyze what is important to use and what you can ignore in mobile version?
Well, so ignoring things isn't always, the way I would say it. We don't want to ignore anything, but we can prioritize things. And so that means making the page easy to navigate and hiding some of the content that you think people are less likely to consume. So Amazon does a great job of this, where there are expanders and plus boxes, so you can know, what's available if you really want to get into the product details or specifications, but they hide it by default. So that way, the user experience is good for people who want that information and for people who don't. It's easy to find and expand, but it's easy to skip over if it's unnecessary for the user. And so the trick there, of course, is just to make sure that that's still crawlable by Google, by checking to make sure that the content is in the JavaScript, that you're server-side rendering the page, and that the text is crawlable even before it's expanded.
And what do you think about monetization? For example, I remember when the first versions of mobile became, some studies share that people prefer to find on mobile, but then they buy in desktop. What about today? Because for me, it's simpler to buy in mobile version. I can use Apple Pay, so just a few clicks, I can get what I want to get. I know it's safety. What do you think about today? It's important to think about monetization on mobile version.
Yes, absolutely. And you're right that the trends are changing. People are more comfortable making purchases on their phones, and especially if they've got Apple Pay or Google Pay or any kind of credit card saved to an account, where they can do basically a one-click purchase and not have to fill out the forms. That's a huge benefit, and can make it so much easier for people to convert kind of without thinking. It's almost so easy to buy things on a phone now that you can do it quickly enough that you kind of forget, like, oh, did I actually buy that or did I not? When I was looking at it on my phone this morning. So you have to embrace that, and you get a lot more conversions. But if you don't allow the forms to be filled out or incorporate Apple Pay or Google Pay or any of the Visa credit card population things, then you're slowing people down, and you're giving them more time to second guess, or make a different decision, or decide to research longer. So making it as easy as you can by incorporating all of those existing payment APIs and form capture, and letting people sign in so that you can remember their information, and letting people sign in and complete a transaction as a guest if they forgot their password and they don't want to reset it. That can be the hardest part of a transaction, is if you have an account and you have your credit card saved, but then you forgot your password. So letting people have kind of a lot of opportunities to do it easily. And the other thing that I'm saying is, there's still going to be people who aren't comfortable converting on their phone for whatever reason. Maybe they're, in public transportation and they're not sure they have a good connection, or they're on public Wi-Fi and they don't feel comfortable doing that. So I talk about giving people bailout options when they're in the conversion funnel, when maybe they've started or they've added things to their cart, where you can email yourself your cart to convert later, or you can send yourself a text message with your cart to convert later, or you can set a reminder or save things as contacts or calendar invites. Any way you can to make whatever conversion you have easier. So even if it's not a purchase, maybe you're booking a tour or a car hire or something like that, allowing people to do it from their phone and then add it to their calendar. So they remember, oh, the reservation starts today and I have to pick it up by 2, or whatever that is, going the extra mile.
Yeah, nice. Once I found a study about Amazon, because this company invests a lot to site speed, and when I open Amazon, it's long content, but it loads like for a few moments. I don't know, less than a second. I can get everything that I need. It's the same with mobile, but vice versa. Many other websites, they are loading slowly, more than 3 seconds, and it can hurt conversion rate. Can you tell how it's important to increase site speed like Amazon usually does, and how it impacts to ranking positions if mobile version is loading fast?
Yeah, so load time can be a really important aspect of a good optimization, both for search engine rankings and for driving conversions. The easiest things to do to optimize your site are usually to do with images, lazy loading images, sizing images properly, and allowing images, JavaScript, and CSS to cache for a long time, so that once it's fetched once, it doesn't have to be fetched again. And what that does from an SEO perspective is it makes the site easier and simpler to crawl and index. If Google doesn't have to wait or struggle, then it'll get more pages, more content. At least that's the theory. What Google says about load time is that it's a tiebreaker. So if you and one website have exactly the same ranking statistics, then they'll look to things like load time to see which one should win and which one should rank higher. The other thing that's important is I have started noticing more and more clever developers trying to trick Google and get a faster load time that's just for Google, but that's not for users. And I'm not going to say that never works, because sometimes it can and it does. And sometimes it's okay. Google says, in some cases, as long as you're serving basically the same content, you can serve one thing to Google and have it be slightly faster and a slightly different thing to users. But they don't say faster. They can just say you can serve this to Google if it's for the benefit of your users, whatever that means. But it's pretty nebulous. But know that Google is using both real load times and the simulated load times, and the clever tricks that developers usually do can fix the simulated load times, but it's harder for them to fix real user or impact real user load times. And so Google has this huge database of what they call RUM, real user metrics, and they have it because they own Chrome browser. And so since they have all of the load time from their own browser, they can see how fast did this load on desktop, how fast did it load on tablet, how fast did it load on mobile for real experiences. And so if your real experience is vastly different from the synthesized synthetic experience that they're estimating for load time, then they're probably going to notice that and not going to always give you the benefit of the doubt. They're going to say, oh, this is actually really slow. And so users might be less happy with it. Now, one more point too, on Amazon, we use Amazon as kind of the standard, right? Because it's so fast and so easy, and it's a great user experience usually. And I do think that this is a fair, way to go about looking at things using Amazon as the model. But for us, it's something to strive for. But remember that Amazon owns AWS, so they have and they have way more employees and technical people than most of us do. So they're going to be able to do the very best job possible. And same with Google, they're going to be able to do the very best thing possible. So know that they're good to model after. You should be looking to see what they're doing, using anything that you can that Google or Amazon makes available to speed things up. But taking it all with a grain of salt, they probably still will have the unfair advantage or be a little bit faster than us. But this is one of the things I talk about, and I have for years actually. I still like looking at AMP code, even though Google doesn't give you as much of a reward for being AMP valid. Even if you're not AMP valid, you can use AMP code to replace slow heavy code with faster code. And even without getting to the stage of AMP valid, you can have a much faster site by sprinkling in AMP code instead of old, slow, heavy code wherever you want. And it's free. And the best, Google developers in the world worked on it. So learn from that and use it.
You remind me some speakers who helped me to create lessons for my SEO course, because it's interesting that most content that I get about technical optimizations were from women in SEO, from Olga Zar, Kat Omgi, and others. So yeah, I got it. You know more than many men. Okay, Cindy, I have the question about creating content strategy. It's interesting that I never, I see when webmasters usually create one strategy for a website, but some traffic can be mobile, some traffic can be desktop, or both. So can you tell, is it a good idea to separate content strategy for mobile version, desktop, or consider at least in content strategy that traffic can be comes from mobile version?
Yeah, I think that you don't have to have a separate strategy for mobile necessarily. There might be some cases where you need a separate strategy, but in most cases, you don't need a separate strategy. You just need to take your content strategy and think of it from both perspectives. Does it address a use case for a mobile user? Does it also equally address the desktop user? The only time when you might need separate strategy is if you have something that is very heavily focused on desktop use. And then you might need to think about separate, is there value from a mobile perspective? So the things that I'm thinking of are maybe you're a software company that sells software that only works when it's downloaded to a desktop. Then what is your mobile strategy? Well, your mobile strategy is to get people to bookmark the page and download it to their desktop later. So you need to have those bailout options where you email yourself a link or you Slack yourself a link or something like that, so that it's easy to find and complete later. Or maybe you need to have download pages that get you to sign up for emails so that you get the reminders in your email. And thinking about like maybe blog posts that people consume on their phone, but then send themselves a reminder from the blog post to download it when they get to their desktop, something like that. But most of the time, you don't need two separate content strategies.
Cindy, I open your LinkedIn profile because I like opening LinkedIn profiles, and I see on your background picture Moscon. And the question, how are mobile rankings different? Can you reply to this question? You replied on Moscon, please, for our audience as well. How is difference?
The main difference is about the layout. So you have so much less space on a mobile phone. So think about on desktop, we used to have ads on the top and on the side. Now it's mostly a couple ads on the top and sometimes knowledge graph or map packs on the side. Or sometimes there's a shopping result on the side. Just remember when you're on a mobile phone, there's no side. And so everything has to be stacked. And so Google will usually put the things that they've created, that they host, that they monetize towards the top. And so anything that would occur on the side is now on the top. So that's maps, knowledge graph, shopping grids. Sometimes they have these new things that are like answers and additional filters with drop downs. All of that is if it'll be stacked if it's still there. What you have to also know is that different things can show up in the mobile search result that don't show up in desktop, or vice versa. I've seen it where a knowledge graph shows up on mobile but doesn't show up on desktop, or maps are more likely to show on mobile than desktop by just a little bit. There are often more filters and refinements on mobile than there are on desktop because Google knows it's a little bit harder for you to type on your phone, so they'd rather you just be able to click one thing to make it easier for you. So these things that show up on mobile that might not always show up on desktop, what happens is they often will take clicks away from blue links. And so what we're seeing in organic and paid actually is as we increase the volume of mobile searches around the world, the clicks to websites and the clicks on ads are both decreasing. And I think it's because people are either finding what they need more quickly without having to click through to a website because they get it from the knowledge graph or an answer, or people also ask, or they're clicking on the filters to refine the search and do another search, because that's what happens when you click a filter. Google doesn't just give you the new answer. Usually people also ask, they do, but other filters, they resubmit a new search so they can show new ads and new knowledge graph and new rankings.
Yeah, nice, valuable. Love it, love it. I have the question about menu Hamburger. You know, it's interesting that it's like hidden element, but most websites use it because it's hard to add all these elements in mobile version. But once I check out a study that Google ignores hidden elements 100% times. But Hamburger, it's like even Google tells that it's okay if you use it because it helps user experience and people can understand that you need to click to get the whole menu. What do you think about Hamburger? Is it a good idea to use it or not?
Yeah, absolutely. Hamburger menus are great for mobile. You just need to make sure that the JavaScript that's used to create the hamburger menu is crawlable and that it's pre-rendered so that you don't have to click it and go to the server to get the links. The links need to be in the unrendered version of the page so that Google can crawl them on the first pass and the second pass. And there are tools you can use to see rendered versus unrendered. All of your links and all of your text content ideally should be in both. I've seen people make mistakes where they have crawlable links in their JavaScript, but they don't populate the whole piece of the page in the pre-rendering of the page. They don't pre-render it. So even though they have Ahref crawlable links in that content, since they're using JavaScript to fetch it after in the second phase only, then it's still not crawlable, right? And so there's nuances to making JavaScript crawlable, and pre-rendering, server-side rendering, those are the best ways to make sure hamburger navigation is easy for Google to crawl, and they'll get it just fine. The other thing to know about the hamburger menu that I think people struggle with is sometimes people, and especially developers, don't know when to stop. And so they're used to having so much real estate on the on the desktop, that they have menus with submenus with more submenus and flyouts, and they try and cram all of that into a hamburger menu. And there are ways to do that well, but there are a lot of ways to do that badly. So I would recommend, be careful. Try not to go more than one or two or levels deep, and make sure that it's obvious how to get back to the shorter version of the menu and how to close the hamburger menu or swipe it away in every expansion. So look at it with everything expanded or just at the bottom, because if you have to scroll way down to get to the bottom of the hamburger, people are probably going to get confused and lost.
Nice. I see on your LinkedIn profile that you started the company Mobile Moxie in November 2008. If I remember correctly, in this year, iPhone appeared, or probably 2007. So close. Can you tell how you predicted this future, that it will be important to use mobile optimization, to consider mobile versions? Because I remember even in 2012, 2014, people discuss about this topic. Do they need to do it or not? It's like, in 2000, people ask, it's better to use Yellow Pages or Google, and in 2012, people still discuss that why they need to optimize for mobile version. And today, nobody can discuss it because it's important. So can you tell how you become early adopter in this technology now, when we got only the first version of iPhone in this time?
Well, so it was some of it was luck and just curiosity. I had been working at an agency, and when I switched to this one agency, I'd gotten a big raise, and so I used it to go out and get a new phone. And then they didn't have enough work for me to do at the agency. And so I noticed that all the SEOs that were speaking at conferences were also writing. So I decided to write an article, but I didn't want to rewrite the same thing that everyone was writing. Back then, Everyone was just writing the same articles about title tags and meta descriptions over and over again. So I wanted to write something different. So I started doing tests on my phone, on my new phone, to see what was ranking and try and figure out why. And my instinct was that it was more about mobile web than apps, because apps, especially in the early days, were specific to the operating system. So you had to write an app for iOS. And before iPhones were a big thing, there were so many different mobile operating systems out there. And so it didn't seem like everyone was going to coalesce to either one operating system or another. It seemed like there were going to be, many mobile operating systems for years to come. And so I focused on mobile web, saying, okay, how do we make it so people and developers don't have to build everything twice, don't have to build everything. At the time when I started, people were still talking about .mobi domains. So I was like, oh, that seems bad to have a separate domain. That's bad for SEO. And then people started building on mobile subdomains, but that was very error prone. And you would get developers who would migrate or move content on the mobile version of the site, but forget to do it on desktop or vice versa. And then they would break all the links, and everything was just so fragile. And so it just seemed really important for someone to come in and say, okay, build things that aren't going to break the minute you touch it, build things that are more durable and future-proof, and make them flexible to work on desktop and mobile without having to build twice. And so it's funny, because I was actually, if anyone can think back, I was on a stage with Danny Sullivan, who now works at Google, talking about using style sheets to make one page work on mobile and desktop before we had a word for responsive design. I just said, oh, that's very, sophisticated cascading style sheets. And then, then we had a word for it later. It was called responsive design. But, even before the word existed, you could do it. You just had to think it all through.
Nice. Awesome. Love it. Cynthia, you mentioned about AI. I think, that was simple to ignore, hard today, impossible tomorrow. And yeah, all occupations need to think how to adopt AI because, it's not like replacement. I think AI will replace people who don't adapt to AI today. Any occupation needs to do it. So can you tell how to adapt AI in mobile version? Because we know about generating text, about editing, translation, many things marketers can use AI today. What about mobile? How we can adapt AI for mobile optimization?
It's a good question. I think that there's so much of a frenzy right now to talk about AI and to anticipate where it's going and what it's going to do for us. And I think that from an SEO perspective, there's a lot of ways that you can use AI to improve your content, improve your understanding of your customers, improve your images, and in general make your site more engaging. I think that we're probably not far off from a lot of new AI tools that'll help us with usability, with load time, stuff like that. Either find problems and write code to fix them. That would be great. But I also think that there's a lot of room for things to go wrong quickly, and a lot of room for bad tools to be out there to give bad recommendations. And so I want to be a part of the frenzy, or at least I want to watch and be amazed, because the things that are happening with AI right now are quite impressive. But I wonder when are we going to hit the limitations? Because with every other technology that's been that showed up and was supposed to revolutionize things, they have revolutionized things, but maybe not as quickly as we anticipated, or SEO has been predicted to be dead for so many times, for so many reasons. And I think that it's going to evolve, and we're going to have to evolve, and Google's going to have to evolve, especially to reward good content that's maybe human generated or human plus AI, but that's at least true, valid, not fake, stuff like that. Google has a big problem that they've got to deal with, and until we see how Google deals with it, there will be SEOs trying to exploit it. And so it's a race. It's a race between SEOs trying to game Google and get all of their stuff ranking with AI that's, maybe it's high quality. I was going to say low quality, but maybe it's high quality AI generated content that looks great, and maybe that's okay with everyone. And so Google has moral questions and legal questions and all of these things that they've got to figure out very quickly. And until they do, if you're not trying to super exploit Google, we kind of need to watch and wait. If what you want to do is really take advantage and exploit, then there are probably opportunities. But I think what we're going to see, my prediction here, is we're going to see Google trying harder to regulate potentially incorrect or inaccurate AI generated content by showing more of their AI generated content and their hosted answers, knowledge graph, shopping options. Anything that Google can validate on its own is going to have the advantage over random stuff that it finds on the web. And so that means being a part of Google My Business, being a part of Google Merchant Center, having that layer in between the web content and Google, where Google has another level of validation to make sure that it's real and it's not exploitative in any way. I think that Google's going to have to lean hard on that, just to make sure they don't get in trouble by, the algorithm ranking things that are problematic.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think because AI only in the beginning of development, and Google lost $100 billion with one twin because Bart generated the wrong answer. So of course, Google will develop this technology. Yeah, go ahead.
The difficulty really is there are so many people trying to talk about AI, and I will say I'm not an expert on AI. I've read probably most of the things that most of our industry has read, but the problem that Google has had for a while with their algorithm is that even they don't know what's going to happen and what the machines are going to learn and if they're going to learn correctly. And so that's why, for a while we had those results where Google was getting things wrong with the, six-legged horse and the four-legged snake. Google was using AI, but getting answers wrong, and they didn't know that it was going to get it wrong. And they had to kind of stop that and fix it and figure it out. And the people who are building these AI technologies, they don't know how and when it's going to learn certain things or go off the rails and start getting things wrong or becoming very influenced by conspiracy theories or racism or things that are generally not great for society. But it's happened every single time. And so we know we have to be careful about it, but they don't know when it's going to happen. I was watching something the other day about technology where they had taught this one AI only English, and they anticipated that it might learn another language in a couple of years of crawling the web, but it learned kind of a smallish language, not like a really large language, but something like I don't know, let's say Norwegian, within 2 months. And they expected the first language to be something like Chinese or Hindi, where a lot of people speak it. And they expected it to take years, but it wasn't true. So some of these things are happening at a much faster clip than even the people who are building it anticipate. And so that makes us as like SEOs, we're just kind of at the mercy of what the AIs are allowed to do and what the people who are building them can even predict and control, which is all still TBD.
Nice. Yeah. Love it. Well explained, Cindy. And, I think you know more about mobile than me, like 10 times or even 100 times, a lot more. And I'm pretty sure that we will get the first smart glasses or Hamlet, I don't know. So you will be adapt faster than many others. Okay, Cindy, I have the question about your experience. If you started today from scratch without any experience, knowledge, skills, what will you do today to learn more about mobile optimization?
I would probably be taking more development classes. I would be learning JavaScript and app code.
And where are you get it? I mean, like, which resources do you prefer to consume?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe any of the free universities online, but then I learn better with people in person. So for me, I would probably sign up for a real class.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other thing that we're seeing with AI and with all of the mobile phones is that in some ways this the technology is evolving in ways that are harmful for humans, and especially like mobile phones. And I think I might be learning some of the psychology tricks that the social networks are using to keep people engaged on their mobile phones so that we could do things to help people not just be addicted to their online technologies, but also actually live good, connected, fulfilling lives. Because I think that there's a balance, and we've gone too far in one direction, where people are feeling less and less happy and less connected, but they get this fake connection on their phone. And I think that's a really interesting area of study that is going to be more and more necessary as things continue the way they are right now.
Nice. Yeah, Cindy, it's a big pleasure to get on my show, to learn from you. You always share a lot of valuable insights. I need to go to an emergency room to spend time, to consume all this information, to think how I can optimize my mobile version, my clients, and tell the best way how to connect with you, how to reach out to you, how to learn from you, how to follow you.
Definitely, the best way to connect with me is on Twitter. Unfortunately, I'm addicted to that social network, so that's where I am most of the time, at least in the background. So connect with me on Twitter. My DMs are open, so message me if you need anything. And then the other way to learn is Mobile Moxie, my company. We have a YouTube channel full of webinars and even like glossary of terms and explanations. And that's a great resource if you have missed any of the talks that I've done in the past couple of years. I put basically every single one on that YouTube channel, so you can catch up and see what other people are seeing.
Okay, guys, you can find the links to mobilemoxie.com in the description, Twitter account. Listen us on Apple, Google, Spotify. Thanks again for your time. A big pleasure. Love it. So valuable, guys. You need to follow Cindy on Twitter because you can see a lot of value. Okay, love you. See you.